Welcome to the Scaleup Valley podcast, where we bring the best of the best to help scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. Today, we have a very special guest. Her name is Ruth Poon, the country managing director at Wurth Electronics, Australia. Ruth, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike.
It's great to have you here, and especially it was a good coordination to be able to cross this almost 12-hour time zone difference. But let's get to know more about yourself and of course about Wurth Electronics Australia as well.
Okay, so I guess a little bit about myself. I've been with the company since 2006 for Wurth Electronics, not Wurth Electronics in UK, working for various departments. So I've got a wide skill range, from various types of business focuses, from internal to external. I guess I fit quite well into the company. I've always been quite fortunate to have worked for companies with team members where their priority was to deliver high levels of customer service. As with Wurth Electronics, they have a clear vision, very strong customer mission statements, and some inspiring internal team mottos, which I'd still remember some of these from my previous companies as well. And at each of these organizations, I've always gained quite, memorable mentors and coaches, and some of them I still am in contact with.
It's amazing.
For myself.
Inspiring. And what about Wurth Electronics? So could you let us know a little bit more about the stage of growth of the company, some of the stats, number of employees, etc., some metrics, and of course, what do you do specifically?
Yeah. So the company here, Wurth Electronics Australia, is in the grand scheme of things of the Wurth Group. We're a startup company. We became its own limited entity back in March, April 2017. We were operating as a sales office in Australia and New Zealand. We're part of a bigger group of companies, part of the Wurth Electronic Group. They are a manufacturer of electronic components, sales and development of components as well. And they employ about 7,300 people across the globe, across 43 countries, and 200 bees as well in a head office, because they have their own beehive outside, for the environmental purposes. It generates globally about 850 million euros worth of sales. That was the figures from last year. And the electronics division is just one of the Wurth Group companies, and that started up in 1945. And they are now the global market leader in fastener technology. Their total group turnover is about 14 billion euros and just over 78,000 employees.
Well done. That's amazing scale, and that's what I like to also see. As you know, we cover a lot of scale ups on the show. But at the same time, it's very inspiring to see large organizations with a lot of different kind of companies within the portfolio of that large organization. So you have companies in different stages within that portfolio. So that's really inspiring. And okay, well, let's go to discuss the 3 critical ingredients to scale. So for the ones who are following us for the last 150 plus episodes, you already know what are the main ingredients that we always discuss, but I will repeat: radical focus, world-class leadership, and a culture of execution. So starting with radical focus, So we are living very special times with this pandemic, and you are based in Australia, in Melbourne, to be more precise. So how is the situation there? Maybe that's also a good context for the ones that are listening this episode.
Well, each, I guess with Australia and New Zealand, there's real borders, so they reacted quite fast with some of the toughest lockdown situations, and everybody just works through this, to reduce the community transmission and the incoming transmission
Mhm.
from various locations. Um, we're very isolated from the rest of the world, because of the time differences and the geography. But what I've found with, I guess, the cultural aspects of Australians and people in New Zealand is they just adapt really fast, and
Mhm.
just get on with business. And they pull together, to help each other. So there was a lot of advice giving between companies, and it was it was all about, well, let's share its experiences, find out what works, and just keep adapting, to pull through. Of course, not everything's all rosy, for every company, but it's all about helping each other, which seems a really good culture to be in over here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And when did you move to Australia, by the way? This is something relevant for our conversation.
I moved around about mid 2018, so I've been here for uh,
Got it.
just over 2 years now.
So you
So
still can appreciate some of the components of the culture where you are and where you have been in the UK before, I assume, right?
yeah, it's very similar to almost the northern culture of England. Everybody's super friendly and they love to chat and learn about you, and it's get to know the person first. It's uh, um, the relationship building, and then business comes easier afterwards.
That's great. Which is also something that happens in Asia in general, right?
Mhm.
Which is something good to learn. I would say in any situation nowadays, but it's much more a relationship based culture and less transactional as other cultures, as the American, for instance, right?
Yep.
Cool. And by the way, so we all have this plan prepared for 2020 and end of the first quarter, things happened, right? And we need to adapt, as you said, and it's good that people over there are adapting really fast, and this is a component of the culture. But how did you adapt yourself with your team to define your critical priorities given the new situation and especially the uncertainty component of it? So you didn't know what to adapt to because it was always changing and we didn't know very well what would be happening in the upcoming months. So now it's kind of from March to December in this situation. And so how are you redefining your priorities for the year and how is it going?
I guess when you're talking about redefining priorities, they're always they're always there anyway in the foundation of not just the company, but the team members as well. And then when you can work together as a group and have an uh, open, transparent conversation about what's needed to be done, people are stronger as a team, as a group. So as I said, the relationship's already there, and we had all quite frank conversations with each other on, how will we pull through this, and that's pretty much it. When you got a plan in place, you got a transparency, and you've all got disagreement of how you will adapt. You just make it happen. And
Got
that
it.
two-way feedback needs to be there so that, the idea flows need to come in so that we can all be happy with, are we doing the right thing?
Got it. It's cool the way you phrase it and even the way you communicate. So it's very calm. So it creates a lot of peace, which is very good in terms of facing the uncertainty of the situation. And so, do you have any tricks, any lessons, any experiences in order to keep for leaders who want to keep everyone focused during this situation? So you have already shared some tips for that. So kind of being transparent and talking about things without hiding them, and really talking with the team to find solutions with the team for the challenges that come on our way. Is there anything else, any story that you'd like to share from this period with the team?
Yeah, well, in terms of focus, it's like when the saying goes, you can drag a horse to what, but you can't make it drink. And in order to make somebody prioritize that focus, for the company, you have to also understand, well, what is that individual's values and objectives as well. How does that align with the company? How um and when they do align, that's when you get that focus. Because at the end of the day, we're all people, we're all human. Our priorities are all different. So when you can overlap that with the work, and they always say, when you enjoy what you're doing, when you're totally engaged, you don't have to really feel like it's work or too difficult. So you also have to discuss, well, if you're not aligned with the company priorities, or the company is not aligned with the employees or the individuals' focuses or their priorities, you know, what do you need to do? Come to middle ground and negotiate that. The company's got a goal to grow by the means that they do. We have measurables, metrics, which everyone has to attain. So we know we're doing the job along the way, because that result doesn't just happen. You have to know that you're doing the right thing as the day goes by. So then it's all about talking to make sure that, well, if you're offline, what's happening? How do we get you back on track? And the same for the personal side. Is that taking that team member away from being focused as well? And that's why when I say the personal and business needs to align on the focuses and the drive, and you get them to marry up, then you'll have a high degree of motivation and commitment, because you also build that level of trust as well. Because what you tend to find is when you're measuring KPIs, key performance indicators, and metrics and stats, you can overdo this and all of a sudden micromanage, and then that leads into a distrust as well. And people feel that, especially when you're at a certain level of communication and you have a higher level of understanding. And in a sales environment, and the professionals within our team, that's very easy to detect when they see that. So then you get that disengagement. So that's pretty much it. Just treat people like you would like to be treated as humans, and understand that everything doesn't always surround work. We all have to fit everything around that whole 24-hour day, that whole week, and understand how you do that and how the team members do that, etc. And then you get that motivation where everything just fits.
Absolutely. We use objectives and key results, which is a combination of objectives plus KPIs, or using KPIs to kind of assess the achievement of the objectives. And I think that's a great exercise to bring the team together and define the OKRs for the year and the OKRs for the quarter, review the OKRs from last quarter, and do the same for the coming quarter. But I admit something that you said that is very good. When you are doing the weekly rhythms of reviewing the OKRs and finding ways to improve those key results, it's very easy to have a kind of interrogation kind of environment where people are being intimidated to let us know if they are achieving or not achieving, and if that's their fault or not their fault. Instead of having a mindset of how can we help each other, as we were saying in the beginning, and how can we change what is not going as predicted, and how can we celebrate what is going really well, which is also important, and praise people and teams that are really going on the right way. But it's very easy to really start blaming each other and start trying to find who is the guilty person in the room, instead of trying to think how can we help the team to achieve those goals. So that's a very good one.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't want to back somebody in a corner where they become defensive. That's not productive for anybody.
Absolutely. So this is all related with number 2, the world-class team, or slash leadership, as I like to call it. And so during this peacetime or wartime that we are living in nowadays, so we need to keep the right people on the right seats as we scale the team and the company. So as a leader, I would say that we need to dedicate a lot of time to this, to retain our current people, and at the same time to always attract the best to our teams and to keep building the team. So what are some of your lessons and takeaways on building world-class teams?
The situation with building teams is it's all about recruiting the right type of people. I mean, you're never going to get the same formula that matches. We can spend a lot of time analyzing personalities and checking if they would fit. I mean, a computer, a machine can do that, by looking and optical reading a CV. It's all about being in front of the person, understanding, are they diverse enough? They don't have to necessarily match the current team. And diversity is really good to bring in new ideas into the company, because improvement in processes, added values, helps evolve a company, and that's what makes a team successful, having that variation as well. Which brings me on to the point is, the employee is one of the most valuable assets in the company, not just Wurth Electronics Australia, but in Wurth in general, because they form part of the culture. They develop that, they create the culture, they advance it, and that's what creates that formidable team as well. So creating a team is really essential, understanding how people work together, what skill sets they have, because there's a big variation in function. So there's something that will fit everybody here, and to develop that skill set, but the main thing is to find out if you're talking to the team member and they were in control of this, how would they run this? And it nurtures quite a lot of ideas that brings a lot of value into our current situation, our current team, our current processes. Of course, everybody still has to have an element of development within the company, but these are hard skills, learning the system, learning our product range, and the soft skills is what will be checked to determine, do they have the right motivation, passion, drive, what gets them up in the morning? Why do they want to join Wurth Electronics? Why do they want to be in sales? Why do they want the role? What are they doing in front of this, the interview that they're applying for a vacancy? Those questions will determine, does that person have the right DNA to understand that Wurth Electronics is a high service level provider? Are they motivated to do this? Because they have to be driven to do this. You can't train somebody, to have that care factor to do this. And then the rest of it, the hard skills, like I said, learning how to use our system, that can be trained.
Right. Especially when you are in an environment where you have a major framework of execution, you have major processes. So it's really all about the attitude, as you were saying, and the connection with the mission and the vision, as you were saying in the beginning, as well, and of course the cultural fit, to fit in the culture and be able to work as a team member in the achievement of the objectives, or to get closer to the vision of the company. So good one. So let's move to the third ingredient, culture of execution. So we had we need to adapt to a working from home environment. So how did you keep everyone on the same page? Did you have any special rhythms, and how did you keep working or strengthen the culture during this working from home environment?
Well, I was actually quite fortunate. The team here are very mobile.
Right.
They've had quite a lot of experience over the years of traveling across, the big geography of Australia and New Zealand. So naturally, they're a field-based team, and they're prepared with the equipment and tools and the ability and skill set to be able to maintain, build relationships and keep in contact with a variety of platforms. They're close, because again, they've built their relationships over the years. It's the feeling you get. It's like a Christmas extended family reunion. You don't talk to the family members all through the year, but then when you meet up on that day, when we meet up on a video conference, when we meet up at sales meetings, when we get back on the phone, you pick up where you left off, in the conversation.
It's a great example.
That's pretty much it. So with the work at home situation, they have a different type of passion and competence here. So as long as they've got the both of those points, which, I'm really confident every team member here has that, then, they're engaged. Without one or the other, without the competence, that's the trained in hard skills, and without the passion, which again, is one of the soft skills that you kind of have to have within you, that care factor. Without one of these, you'll either get somebody who won't do it if they don't have the passion, and then without the competence, you get someone who can't do it. So that's they're really good two ingredients in making sure that the team can adapt to work from home. And ultimately, as I said before, transparency, which means the communication needs to be there, so that we can continue moving along, or whatever the goal is in the daily work, that we stay productive. So I think the work from home culture was, it came naturally for everybody, and even for the internals, because they have had to maintain relationships with the field-based team. There was a concerted effort for the team to make that extra contact.
Excellent. That's great. So, what you were saying in a certain way is that this is already the way that you were working the environment that we were working in. So it was not too much of you didn't need too much in order to adapt to this new environment, because you were already working on this kind of environment. So that's a good one for you. And I know that you were introduced by the vice president of Wurth Electronics, Rob Sperry, who has been on the show as well, as you know, and he was quite delighted with the results that you were achieving, and he recommended you to join us today. And I'm really happy to have you with us. So, how were you able to drive amazing results in this situation? So, everything that we are listening from you in the podcast is everything was all right. Nothing happened on this part of the world, but I know that you needed to face some challenges, I'm sure.
How did I get everybody? Well, I guess they're a small team, you know. Individually, as I said, everybody was very competent. You know, everybody had the skill set, they had the knowledge, they had the experience, they knew their territories really well, they knew their jobs very well, the products, the passion was there. You know, they're really great ambassadors for Wurth Electronics. You know, and they care so much about making sure that they deliver to their customer. You know, not just products but the service. You know, and that's their primary aim. You know, to deliver that service. The product is just part of that whole package. However, they weren't, although they got on very, very well personally, there's a big difference between socially working well and actually working as a team. And that's where they took it to the next level, was understand that, well, you know, we got around, we had dinners, we obviously spent time around the bar to make sure that we could get to that level of being very open with each other. And if something wasn't running right, just say it, you know, and then there's no hard feelings because that relationship's already sorted. And once you've had that social interaction outside of the work environment, to understand, well, if I get an email like this from one of the team members, well, they're being a bit harsh. Again, that could backtrack somebody emotionally as well. So that barrier was removed so that we could become a much more higher level performing team by being brutally honest. So if something wasn't working, let's just talk about it and be honest. You know, if someone's not done something, or if somebody's, you know, if one team member expected X task to be done in a time period, in a particular way, and, you know, there was no point fixing it, which that a lot of that was happening. You had to pull everybody in the direction, you know, this is how I want this to be performed. This is how long I want this to take. This hasn't been done. Why hasn't it been done? What can we do to fix it? You know, and it's to make sure, you know, nobody ever feels that it's personal. It's just business. So when I got the team together to perform as a team, it made them a lot stronger because everybody has different skill sets. I mean, there's a big overlap, but yeah, and we could use that to our advantage.
I see that one of the core values is kind of being talking about the elephant in the room, right? So that's something really important to build trust across teams. So not being afraid of talking about what is not going well in a positive way. And this can create a lot of fear and anxiety, and sometimes it's very tempting for leaders to create this kind of sensation that everything is going well when it isn't, and you might have a lot of politics on backstage, and this can ruin completely the environment and the healthy relationship among the team members, right? So I think that's a very good one too, and especially when we are also facing issues with the team, talking with the team about it instead of having one-on-one conversations behind them. So which can create even more distrust and lack of transparency, as you were saying. Okay, cool.
And I mean, I'm part of the team as well, so you know, as I say to every team member, I expect the same feedback. If there's something I've not done, you know, then they would be very welcome and I guess comfortable enough to tell me as well.
Absolutely. Love it. So we came to the last question of the show, which is if you would have the opportunity to meet yourself when you joined the Wurth in 2006, what advice would you offer to Ruth at that time?
Well, ultimately, we all know we can't travel back in time. So I would say the best thing to do is just take advantage of the opportunities and moments that are present currently in front of you. I see a lot of people think about, you know, what could they have done? How would they have fixed it? So time's the currency. You can only spend it once. So make sure you spend it wisely and look at the moment right now and deal with it. So I would keep telling myself that.
That's awesome. Ruth, it was really a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for making the time and effort to be awake at this time in Australia to make this happen and to share your lessons with the community.
Yep, likewise, Mike. Thank you very much for inviting me on your show. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. And to our community, thanks for being on that side. We keep bringing you the best of the best so you are able to scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. See you soon and keep scaling.